I stared blankly at the calendar in my Manhattan apartment, the last 2 weeks of July hauntingly empty. Our family's annual beach house vacation, a 25-year tradition, had been abruptly canceled. "Times are tough," my mother's voice crackled through the phone, laced with what I now knew was fake concern. "Your father's business isn't doing as well as we hoped." I felt a pang of disappointment and frustration. Why had they lied to me? I thought about all the summers spent building sandcastles with my siblings and the memories that stretched back to my childhood. "I could help with the costs," I suggested, trying to keep the desperation from my voice. "I know how much this tradition means to everyone, especially to me." My mother quickly shot down my offer. "Oh, honey, no. We couldn't possibly take your money. It's better if we all just skip it this year." I sensed a slight hesitation in her voice, but I was too caught up in processing the loss of our family gathering to notice the red flags. It wasn't until later, when I saw the photos of my family in a private villa, that I realized the true extent of their betrayal. "We just can't afford the beach house this year," I echoed, my voice dripping with sarcasm, as I prepared to unleash a surprise of my own. "I felt a surge of emotions as I read your story. It's like you've been punched in the gut and the wind has been knocked out of you. 2 weeks ago, you were told that your family couldn't afford the beach house vacation, but it turns out that was a lie. They had gone ahead with the trip, excluding you from the fun one. As you scrolled through the Instagram photos, you must have felt a mix of emotions: shock, anger, sadness, and betrayal. The images of your family enjoying quality time together without you must have been like salt in the wound. The fact that they didn't even bother to invite you or include you in their plans is a harsh realization. It's not just about the vacation, though. It's about the years of subtle exclusions and dismissals that have suddenly become apparent. The forgotten invitations to weekend brunches, the lack of consideration for your feelings, it all adds up to a painful truth squared. I can only imagine how you must be feeling right now, but I want you to know that you deserve better. You deserve to be included, to be loved, and to be respected by your family. Don't let this experience define you, but instead, use it as an opportunity to reevaluate your relationships and prioritize your own emotional well-being." As I sat there, staring at the papers in front of me, I felt a wave of emotions wash over me. Anger, betrayal, and sadness all swirled together, making it hard to breathe. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The documents, the emails, the whole thing was a carefully crafted plan to cut me out of my own family. The beach house, the one place that held so many happy memories, was now a symbol of their betrayal. I remembered learning to swim in that ocean, my first kiss under the boardwalk, and all the family dinners on that deck. It was our tradition, our sacred place, and they had taken it away from me. I thought about all the times I had felt excluded, all the family gatherings I had been left out of. It wasn't just a coincidence, it was a deliberate attempt to push me away. And the documents I had signed, the ones my father had told me were just routine paperwork, were actually a cleverly disguised plan to take away my share of the beach house. My hands clenched into fists as I thought about my father's betrayal. He was the one who had always handled the family's finances, the one I had trusted to look out for my interests. But it turned out he was the mastermind behind this whole scheme. I felt a cold fury rising up inside me. They had planned this for months, maybe even years. They had manipulated me, used me, and discarded me like trash. But they had made one mistake. They had underestimated me. I was not going to go down without a fight. As I sat in Harold's office, surrounded by the familiar scent of old paper and coffee, I felt a mix of emotions swirling inside me. The warm glow of nostalgia washed over me as I remembered visiting this office as a child with my grandfather. But beneath that warmth, a spark of anger and determination burned. I felt a shiver run down my spine as Harold handed me a thick envelope. "This is what your grandfather left for you," he said, his voice low and serious, along with very specific instructions. As I took the envelope, a sense of trepidation washed over me. What secrets did it hold? What instructions had my grandfather left for me? I felt a sense of resolve harden inside me. I was ready to face whatever was coming. Bring it on. As I sat in Harold's office, my eyes widened with each passing sentence of my grandfather's letter. The words danced on the page, revealing a family secret that shook me to my core. My father's ambition and my mother's willingness to follow him blindly had led them to slowly push away anyone who didn't fit their perfect family image. Aunt Cla's face flashed in my mind, and I wondered about the truth behind her departure from our family. Had she been cast aside like I was now? But my grandfather had left me a way to fight back. The original deed to the beach house property, which included the private road and dock, was still under the original trust, a trust that now belonged to me. Harold's words hung in the air. Without access to the private road, the beach house is essentially landlocked. A slow smile spread across my face as I realized the power I held. My phone buzzed, and Emma's Instagram post flashed on the screen. Another perfect day in paradise. Family forever. The hypocrisy stung, but I felt a sense of satisfaction knowing that their perfect day was about to come to an abrupt end. As I left Harold's office, a plan formed in my mind. I would remind my family of the true meaning of family, all family members, not just the convenient ones. That evening, as I sat in my apartment, surrounded by old beach house photos, my phone rang. My mother's voice trembled on the other end. "Sarah, honey, we seem to have a situation here at the beach house." I smiled, knowing exactly what was coming. "Oh? What kind of situation?" "Well, the strangest thing, there's apparently some issue with the access road. Some sort of permit problem. We can't get our cars out of the driveway." I could hear the chaos in the background, my father arguing, Emma whining, Michael trying to problem solve. My voice remained neutral, but my heart danced with satisfaction. "That's terrible." I paused, letting the words hang in the air. Almost as terrible as being left out of the family vacation. As I sat in silence, my family's desperate voices left on voicemail, I felt a sense of satisfaction wash over me. They had thought they could just leave me out, lie to me, and then expect me to fix their problems when things didn't go their way. But I wasn't going to make it that easy for them. Harold's voice brought me back to the present. "Your father's trying to find a workaround," he said, hanging up his phone. "He's already contacted 3 different lawyers looking for loopholes." I nodded, unsurprised. I knew my father would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. Harold smiled, shuffling through some papers. "But that's not even the best part," he said, handing me a document that made my eyebrows rise. The words on the page danced with irony. My family's fancy boats, the ones they loved to parade around the harbor, weren't going anywhere without my permission. According to the document, the dock and the surrounding waterways were still under the original trust, which meant I had control over who could use them. I felt a slow smile spread across my face as I realized the full extent of my power. My family had thought they could just cut me out, but my grandfather had made sure I had the upper hand. The sound of my phone buzzing with another voicemail from my family was music to my ears. They were getting desperate, and I was just getting started. As I watched the drama unfold, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. My family had thought they could just cut me out, lie to me, and then expect me to fix their problems when things didn't go their way, but I wasn't going to make it that easy for them. By day 3, the situation at the beach house had reached a breaking point. Without road access, they couldn't get their cars out to go shopping, visit restaurants, or attend any of their planned activities. The dock restrictions meant their boats sat uselessly in their slips, a constant reminder of their predicament. Even their grocery deliveries were being held at the main road, forcing them to walk 2 miles in the summer heat to retrieve them. Emma's Instagram stories had shifted from perfect family vacation to increasingly frantic updates about being stranded in paradise. Michael's wife was threatening to call her parents to come rescue them. Mom had resorted to hourly texts, alternating between guilt trips and attempts at reconciliation. But I remained unmoved, my resolve strengthened by each passing day. As I looked at the messages, Harold's words echoed in my mind. Your grandfather built this plan to be airtight. The only way they're getting access is through you. I smiled, feeling a sense of empowerment wash over me. I was in control now, and they would have to come to me if they wanted to escape their self-made prison. The phone buzzed again, another text from my mom. I hesitated for a moment before responding. I'm not going to fix this for you, I typed, my fingers flying across the keyboard. You should have thought of that before you lied to me and cut me out of our family tradition. I hit send, feeling a sense of liberation wash over me. It was time for my family to learn that actions have consequences, and I was just getting started. As I stood on the deck, surrounded by the scattered evidence of their disrupted vacation, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I had been preparing for this moment for weeks, and I was ready. Let's talk about truth, I said, my voice steady and firm. About family, about what those words really mean. My mother tried to interrupt, but I cut her off. This isn't just about not including me in the vacation, I said, my eyes locked on hers. This is about years of systematic exclusion, about lying to me, manipulating me, trying to strip away my inheritance piece by piece. I pulled out the document I'd signed last year, my heart racing with anger. You tricked me into signing away my rights to the house, I accused, my voice trembling. Just like you've been trying to trick me out of every other part of this family. Emma protested, but I wasn't having it. You're always so busy with work, never making time for family things, she said, but I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my calendar. Like the 3 family dinners last month I was never told about, I asked, my voice rising. Or Michael's birthday lunch, or the weekend planning meeting for this vacation? The silence that fell over the deck was oppressive, heavy with guilt and shame. But I wasn't finished yet. You all made one crucial mistake, I said, my eyes locked on my father's. You forgot about Grandpa's foresight, about the trust he left me, about the fact that this house is worthless without the access he made sure I controlled. I saw the moment it hit them, really hit them, that they weren't in control anymore. My father's face flushed red, my mother's hands twisted in her lap, Emma's eyes filled with tears, and Michael just looked tired. So here's what's going to happen, I said, pulling out the papers Harold had prepared. We're going to restructure things properly this time. Equal access, equal ownership, and if you don't like it, well, that's not my problem. As I stood before my family, the weight of their betrayal hung in the air like a challenge. My father's fists clenched at his sides, his jaw tight with barely restrained fury. My mother stared at the table, pretending to be fascinated by an invisible stain on the linen. Michael had his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. And Emma's eyes were glossy, her lips pressed into a pout like a child on the verge of a tantrum. So this is what you wanted, my father finally spoke, his voice a dangerous growl. You came here to humiliate us, to make us beg. I didn't flinch. No, I said, my voice steady and firm. I came here to make sure you never try to erase me from this family again. I took a deep breath, the words pouring out of me like a pent-up storm. You all made it very clear that I wasn't wanted. You lied to me, you stole from me, you decided I wasn't part of the family when it suited you. But now that you need something from me, suddenly I'm important again. I shook my head, a humorless laugh escaping my lips. I'm not playing this game anymore. Emma threw up her hands, her voice whiny. You're overreacting. It was just one vacation. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? I turned to her, my eyes blazing. One vacation? I repeated. Then why lie? Why forge documents to take away my rights to this house? Why systematically exclude me from everything? My voice rose, the emotions I'd kept bottled up for so long finally bursting free. This isn't just about a trip to the beach, Emma. This is about years of manipulation and betrayal. This is about being treated like I'm not even a part of this family. The room fell silent. The only sound, the distant crash of waves against the shore. My family's faces were etched with shock, anger, and denial. But I didn't back down. I stood tall, my heart pounding with a newfound sense of strength. As I stood there, watching my family's faces contort with anger, guilt, and desperation, I felt a sense of liberation wash over me. I had been holding on to this pain for so long, and finally, I was confronting them about it. Michael's words were laced with frustration, but I could see the faintest glimmer of understanding in his eyes. What do you want, Sarah? Do you want us to apologize? Do you want to keep us locked out of the house forever? I held his gaze, my voice steady. I want you to understand what it feels like to be left out, to be treated like an afterthought, to be discarded until it's convenient to remember I exist. My mother's voice trembled as she spoke, but I wasn't buying it. Sarah, honey, we never meant to hurt you. It was a mistake. I scoffed, the sound bitter on my lips. A mistake? A mistake is forgetting to invite me to brunch. A mistake is mixing up a date. But tricking me into signing away my rights, lying about canceling the trip while you all went ahead without me? That wasn't a mistake, Mom. That was a plan. My father's face turned red with rage, and he slammed his fist on the table, making everyone jump. Enough! You don't get to walk in here and hold us hostage like this. I didn't flinch. Instead, I pulled out the documents Harold had prepared and laid them on the table. Then sign this. My father's face darkened as he realized what the documents were. You want to restructure the ownership? Give equal access to everyone? I nodded, my voice firm. I want to undo what you did. You manipulated me, stole from me, and thought I'd never find out. Now we're fixing this the right way. No more backroom deals, no more exclusion, no more lying. My father tossed the papers onto the table with a sneer. And what if we refuse? I shrugged, a smile spreading across my face. Then I hope you enjoy your long walks to get groceries. The road restrictions aren't going anywhere. My mother looked at me with pleading eyes. Sarah, this isn't fair. I laughed, the sound genuine. Fair? I repeated. You want to talk about fair? You've been treating me unfairly for years. Now it's my turn to take control. As I stepped onto the deck, the atmosphere was thick with tension, but it was different from the day before. The arrogance was gone, the confidence shattered. My family's eyes were cast downward, their shoulders slumped in defeat. I felt a sense of satisfaction, of vindication as I looked at them. They had tried to erase me, betray me, but now I had the power. Let's get this over with, my father muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, my eyes locked on his. Sign the papers, I said, my voice firm but calm. Harold handed him the documents, and my father signed them without hesitation. My mother, Michael, and Emma followed suit, their faces etched with resignation. As they signed, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was done. They had acknowledged their wrongdoing, and they had agreed to make it right. But as I looked at them, I knew that this was only the beginning. They needed to learn that I was not someone they could manipulate, discard, and expect to come crawling back when it suited them. I'm glad we could come to an agreement, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. But let's be clear. This is not a forgiveness, and it's not a fresh start. This is a new beginning, one where I'm in control, and you're all going to have to learn to respect that. I turned to leave, but not before catching my mother's eye. And Mom, I said, my voice soft but firm, Don't think for a second that I've forgotten what you did. You may have apologized, but I'll never forget the pain you caused me." I walked away, leaving them to stew in their regret. I knew that this was just the beginning of a long and difficult journey, but I was ready. I was ready to take control, to stand up for myself, and to make sure that they never hurt me again. As I stood before them, the weight of the papers in my hands was more than just legal ownership. It was the weight of years of exclusion, lies, and betrayal. And now, everything was balanced again. But I wasn't finished. "Now that everything is official," I began, sliding the papers into my bag, "I need to make something very clear." My father exhaled sharply, his eyes flashing with anger. "What else do you want, Sarah? You've already won." I arched an eyebrow, my voice cold. "One, this was just leveling the playing field. But you all need to understand something. I will never allow you to treat me that way again." The room fell silent, the only sound the heavy breathing of my family members. I knew exactly who they were. People who only saw me as a tool, something to be used when convenient. I spent years thinking that if I worked harder, if I was always present, if I did everything right, maybe one day they'd see me as part of this family. But now, I understood that it was never in my control. My mother wrung her hands in her lap, visibly uncomfortable. "Sarah, no." I cut her off, my voice firm. "Now you listen. For the first time, you're not in control. I am." Emma scoffed, her eyes rolling. "If you don't need us, why go through all of this?" I stepped closer to her, meeting her gaze. "Because you all needed to learn that you can't erase me and then expect me to be here when it's convenient." She swallowed hard, her eyes darting away from mine. "The access to the house is restored to all of us," I continued, "but I made sure that none of you can ever alter it again without my approval. Any attempt to screw me over again will be met with consequences." My family's faces were etched with shock, anger, and fear. But I didn't care. I had taken back control, and I would never let them take it away from me again. "I'm done," I said, turning to leave. "I hope you all enjoy your stay at the beach house. But remember, I'm watching, and I won't hesitate to take action if you try to cross me again." With that, I walked away, leaving them to stew in their regret. I had finally found my voice, and I would never let anyone silence me again. As I stood before my family, my voice dripped with venom. "You falsified documents to remove me from my own property. I could have pressed charges, but I decided to do something worse." My father's brow furrowed, his eyes narrowing. "What did you do?" I smiled, a cold, calculated smile. I took out my phone and calmly scrolled to an email. "Let's just say some people were very interested in learning about how you conduct your business." The room fell silent, the only sound the heavy breathing of my family members. My father's face went pale, his eyes wide with horror. "What did you do?" My mother gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "I sent the documents to some of your key contacts," I said, my voice dripping with satisfaction. "I'm sure they'll be very interested in learning about your business practices." My father's face crumpled, his eyes filling with tears. "Sarah, please." But I was unforgiving. "You destroyed yourself, Dad. I just made sure you felt what it's like to be deceived." Emma shot up from her seat, her eyes wide with horror. "What did you do to me?" I smirked, a cold, calculated smirk. "Oh, Emma, you didn't know contracts are legally binding, did you? Your influencer cruise? I revoked your authorization to use any part of the family estate for business purposes." The horror on her face was priceless. "You're joking." I shook my head, my eyes glinting with satisfaction. "Nope. But don't worry. I'm sure your followers will love to hear about how you helped to screw over your own sister." Michael exhaled, rubbing his temples. "So that's it? You want to ruin us?" I stared at him, my eyes cold and hard. "I just want you to feel, even for a second, what I felt. You'll all survive. You'll all move on. But from this day forward, I'm not your backup plan. I'm not someone you get to erase and expect to return with open arms." The room fell silent, the only sound the heavy breathing of my family members. I turned and walked away, leaving them to stew in their regret. As I walked out the door, my mother called out to me, "Sarah, can't we fix this?" I turned and looked at her, my eyes cold and hard. "No." And with that, I walked away, leaving my family to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. That night, as I sat on my apartment balcony, a glass of wine in my hand, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I had taken back control, and I had made sure that my family would never forget the lessons they had learned. The city lights twinkled below me, a reminder of the new life I was building, a life free from the toxic grasp of my family. I smiled, a cold, calculated smile. They had erased me from the family, but I refused to disappear. And now they knew exactly what happened when they tried to play games with me.